Yes, the sun is great for powering your caravan adventures. This video going to upgrade our caravan with one more panel on the roof, and that'll give us well and truly enough power so that we can live off grid and stay longer in those great places that we find. In this video I'm going to show you how I go about installing a new panel, KICKASS 170 watt solar panel. I've already got a few that I installed on the roof there a couple of years ago, and I'm going to use the same method that I used for those. They've been up there 2 years without a problem. Now, a little disclaimer, I will say this is not something you would attempt on your own if you're not confident that you can do it properly. You do not want those solar panels coming loose and flying off when you're cruising down the road or down the highway doing 90, 100 k's an hour. That just ends in disaster for you or the family or the person that panel comes off and hits. So I will say this is not something to be taken lightly. Yes, it is DIY, you can do it yourself as long as you are confident in doing it. And I'm going to do it the way that I did the others after a lot of research and using KICKASS products to make sure that we get a good bond with the KICKASS itself plus screwed to the roof. So I'll go about this, I'll show you how we get that solar panel mounted up on the roof of our van with a few of these products over here. Doing it properly, I've got to cut some angle to mount it to, and we'll get you up on the roof and we'll show you the steps of how I go about installing it. It may not be the right way, it may not be the wrong way, but it's the way that I'm confident and know that they're going to stay up there in all conditions at all speeds down the road. So let's get into this. We'll get up there. I'll show you what I've done to start with there yesterday to make sure the roof is clean and dry for today. I got up here and give it all a good wash with dishwashing soap. You don't want to use a car wash or a wash and wax because you don't want that waxy coating on there. You want it clean and back to basically a nice clean scuffed up fiberglass surface. Then we'll get everything else mounted down on the ground. We'll get the panel back up here on the roof and show you how we go about the steps involved to make sure it's secure. I did a video there a while ago about installing the Cowfish Vantenna, and that's been working great, just as good as the wine guard, but it only works in those areas where you have got TV signal. But the big bonus of installing that is you don't have the wine guard antenna that needs to fold down onto your roof, so it frees up all this space to fit an extra solar panel. You see the two over the other side that I fitted a while ago, 260 watt panels, and we've got the original one here that come with the van from new, I would assume, 150 watt panel, plus we're going to put another 170 watts up here, and then we've got those couple of portable panels, a 250 watt folding panel and a 300 watt solar blanket, which gives us more than enough with our battery system inside the van of 480 amp hours of battery power. But you got to make sure you're installing your solar panels to be the most efficient and getting all that power from the sun and into your batteries. Righto, let's get on to this. It's a couple hours work to make sure it's done right. Tag along and we'll show you the step by step of how we go about this, installing and fitting a new solar panel on the roof of your caravan. So in the van, you might have seen in previous videos a while ago of how we can live off grid. Got the two iTech World 240s in there, so it gives us 480 amp hours of battery power, but making sure all that is wired in to be efficient and give us enough battery power to run the 3000 watt inverter. We've got the iTech World 40 amp MPPT charger, solar controller I should say, and we've just got the DC-DC 25 over there which charges from the car, plus any additional panels I plug in from the outside and picking up the 150 from up on the roof. So gives us plenty of power going into the battery. On a good sunny day, that gives us about 25 to 30 amps just with this setup without anything else plugged into it. So I want to maximise that 40 amp MPPT solar controller and wire it in to the other two 160 watt panels that are mounted up on the roof, which I've already wired up into here, fused and everything. So I do want to connect onto that, and then we've got big heavy cable runs all the way down under the floor of the van and back up and connecting into the battery system there. Now, we're not sponsored or affiliated with iTech World in any way, but I do believe it's great gear. We've had this system installed now for about 2 years, about the same time as I put the solar panels up on the roof, and it's been working faultlessly, I must say. Plenty of power. We've never had any dramas, even after up on Fraser Island there a couple of years ago, where we went up for 10 days or 12 days, and out of that I think we had 8 or 9 days where it was cloudy, overcast, rainy, just very ordinary weather, and we got down to about half of our battery capacity. So installing this new panel, one extra one on the roof, should give us enough that we can survive for a couple of weeks through those sorts of conditions. Now, anybody that's used solar before will know, yes, you might get 10 to 12 hours of daylight during the day, but out of that you might only get 6 or 8 hours of actual usable power from the sun to get some decent power back into your batteries through your solar panels. So you want to maximise that time, say that 6 to 8 hour window during the day when the sun's overhead, to maximise all that power going back into your batteries. So that's why we're installing the extra panel up on the roof. We get by, and we probably would do, nearly endlessly off-grid without putting the extra panel on there, but this just makes sure, with us coming up to being able to live on the road and live off-grid full time, to make sure that we can run all the accessories we want. Maybe not so much the air conditioner, but running the air fryer, the Starlink, fans, TV, anything that we want to run when we need to. Plus we'll be working on the road and editing footage, so running the laptop a lot more than what we are presently, charging camera gear, all of that. As a general rule of thumb, you need about double the solar panel wattage to your battery amp hours, I believe. Roundabouts, I'm not a scientist or know exactly how it works. So we've got 480 amp hours. This is going to give us around 1000 watts of solar going in, so we should not have a problem with that battery setup that we've got. So that's just a bit of a mini description of our battery setup and how we can do it in our van. Oh, we'll get this panel up on the roof, we'll get her all mounted up, do all the work on the ground, cuts a bit of angle, I'll show you how we go about all that, and then we'll get up there and stick it on. But like I said before, it's not just a matter of sticking it on a few screws, you'll be right. No, it's pretty serious stuff, people. You want to make sure it's well and truly fixed and bonded onto that roof, being aluminium to fiberglass, making sure that bond is 100%, plus the screws just gives you that little bit of peace of mind knowing that they're fixed on there. And I'm confident, after doing those other couple up there a few years ago, they haven't moved a millimetre. We know that it's going to be right, and you're confident driving down the highway, not looking in your mirror or get that feeling in your stomach that something's going to go wrong. We'll cut this bit of angle, we'll get the panel out, get her all mounted up on the ground, and then we'll get up on the roof. Righto, so to mount the panel, 170 watt panel, it's 1310 by 700 wide by 35 on the sides. So we've got some 50 by 50 by 3mm aluminium angle. What we're going to do to mount it, the same as what I've done on the others, it's going to go on like that, flush with the top, panel's upside down, it'll be flush there, and that leaves an air gap underneath of about 15 to 20mm, just for a bit of ventilation and keep the panel cool. The cooler they are, the more efficient they work. You don't want it sitting down hard on the roof and getting hot and not being efficient when you want to be catching as much of that sun as you need to be. We'll pre-drill some holes so that we're ready to screw it to the roof once we use this Sikkaflex product, just to make sure that it's well and truly fixed to that roof. Exact same as what I did, same process as what I did with the other two panels. So to fix it on, I'm going to use just some aluminium pop rivets. They are 4.8 diameter with a grip of 9.5. I'm going to drill some holes, and when you're drilling through the edge of your solar panel, you want to make sure that you're not drilling through into the panel itself, but the aluminium frame. It's a bit hard to see in there, but you do want to make sure you're only going through the frame and not drilling into your panel, because that'll destroy your panel and you're just throwing money away. So that's pre-drilled to rivet on to the frame of your solar panel. We're also going to pre-drill 4 holes on this side ready to screw through on the roof. All of this we'll do at ground level, so we're not mucking around with it while we're up on the roof. Alright, both ends, the alloy is top riveted on, nice and secure. So when it's sitting up on the roof, it's going to sit down just like that and fix straight onto the roof there. Now the reason I've used 50 by 50 angle over any other sort of mounting brackets is because it gives you a lot bigger surface area to bond onto the fiberglass roof. Instead of using tiny little brackets, which might only give you a footprint sort of that big, and I'll show you how Jayco mounted the other one up on the roof there. This gives you all that surface area with the maximum chance of bonding, well, it will bond using these Sikkaflex products up onto the roof without any doubt of it coming off. So the next step in this process, before we just go and stick it on the roof, using Sikkaflex 252. It is a high strength structural adhesive sealant. You can find all the information, the technical specs and the instructions of how to use this product online. It's not just a matter of sticking this on the roof, drop the panel on and a couple of screws. There's a bit more to it to make sure it's got the maximum chance of bonding. Using a couple other Sikka products, and this stuff ain't cheap, and you get a big bottle of it and you only use a dribble, is a activator. So I use that stuff, Activator 100, on both the metal, on the aluminium and on the fiberglass up on the roof. So step one is to make sure everything is clean, scuffed up on the roof to get rid of any of that oxidization on the fiberglass, even off of the aluminium. Be surprised the contamination that's on there. And then the next step is to use this stuff, primer. And it's black and it gets everywhere, so you've got to be careful with this. It is primer. You use this before you go using your Sikka 252. Paint that stuff on both the aluminium and up on the roof onto the fiberglass. And this Sikkaflex, the reason I'm using that, there's a lot of other options that you can use, and people will disagree and agree that this is not the stuff to use. But like I've said a couple of times, I've used it up on the roof there before without any problem using this exact process. This stuff here gives it the maximum chance of bonding to both aluminium and fiberglass. So we'll get this on. I won't give you much commentary while we're doing the activator and the primer. I'll catch you up on the roof once we get all this up there. I'll show you how we mark it out, get it exactly sitting where it's going to sit, paint this black stuff on, which is black, and it definitely works. You've got to wait till it tacks off and then you can apply your 252. So with the aluminium, all they recommend is sort of scouring it with a scourer just to rough it up. Gets rid of a little bit of that contamination. Give it a really good rub before we get the activator on there, and do the same up on the roof. And like I said earlier, I give it a wash there yesterday with some dishwashing detergent, not a car wash with any wax or anything in it. You don't want any contamination. It's the same thing up here on the fiberglass. I know where it's going to sit. Give it a good rough up. Gets rid of any oxidization, everything's bone dry. And then once we get the activator on there, we'll do both sides where that panel's going to sit. And once you get the activator on there, that really cleans it up so that it's 100% pure and clean. Cleanliness is the key to making sure you get maximum bond using these Sikka products. While I get the panel in position here, I just want to say thanks for watching. I hope you're getting some useful information out of it and it helps you in some way. If you are, give us a like, hit that big thumbs up button and hit the big red subscribe button to follow us along on our journey for lots more tips, tricks, hacks, maintenance. Plus you'll get to follow our adventures as we set off and live in our caravan full time around Australia. So to apply the activator, you've got to use one bit of paper towel to apply it, and then wipe it off with another clean piece of paper towel. And you just repeat that process, especially on the aluminium, until it's 100% clean and there's no more black stuff coming off. I found last time with the fiberglass it's pretty good. You just apply that and wipe it off and it's ready to apply the primer then. We'll get this on, wait for it to be touch dry, which in this sunshine, which is why we're doing it, to get as much solar power as possible into our batteries. Doesn't take long at all. Give it a really good shake. So that's the activator applied. And then just give it one clean wipe. Turn your towel over and give it a second one. Like I said, the fiberglass is pretty clean. You can't see any gunk on there, but you don't want to reuse that because you want it 100% clean. To do the aluminium is exactly the same, but you might have to repeat the process a couple of times because of the black stuff that comes off. Now that's pretty clean, but there is still a little bit of black gunk on there, so that's why we're applying the activator. While that's wet, give it a wipe with a clean piece of paper towel, just one wipe, clean towel, turn it over, give it a second wipe, and that's it. That is ready to apply the primer. We'll just repeat that on the other two ends, and then we're ready for the black stuff. Righto, we're all activated, we're motivated. It's time to get this black primer on. That's the key to making sure you get the best bond possible and help that adhesion to both fiberglass and aluminium. So we'll get this on, then you've got to wait for it to be touch dry before you can apply your Sikkaflex 252 and mount the panel in place. Firstly, this stuff you've got to give it a really good mix. Mix it for a couple of minutes, give it a really good shake. I'll just use a cheap paintbrush. You only need a dribble. We just get this stuff on. You only need to do the area where your Sikkaflex is going to go. And that is the primer applied. We do that to the other end on the fiberglass roof and on both sections of the aluminium as well. Alright, it's time to get the Sikka 252 on. Now with this stuff, you don't want to just apply it thinly, stick your panel on there with that aluminium to fiberglass bond and squish it down. You don't want it pulling right down. With this type of material, off of the Sikka product technical sheet, you've got to have an amount of this stuff left between to create that bond. So you don't want it all squishing out, so you want to put it on nice and thick. We're just going to put it on the actual roof of the van, and then flip the panel over and sit it down there, hopefully nice and neat, right in the one spot. It's a little bit hard working off a ladder on your own. When I did the other side, I had trestles and planks and everything set up because I did two panels and a big long run made it a lot easier. So up and down the ladder we go, which is no good for these old 51-year-old legs. Up and down we go. Now that's primer has touch dried, which is perfect, so we're ready to apply. Nice thick bead. And we'll do the other end and we're ready to stick her on. If you'd like to find out more information on the great range of products available from KICKASS, including their solar panels that we're using here, check out the link in the description. That'll take you straight to their website with all their products store-wide, with some amazing sales on at this time of the year. You can pick yourself up a bargain and get yourself powered up for your adventures as well. Well, that went to plan. Now you can see how it's not pulled down tight onto the roof. There is about a 3 or 4 mil layer of that Sikkaflex material in there creating that bond. Now I get some screws in there, 4 screws each end. That'll pull down a little bit, but you don't want to over tighten them. And they're just going to screw through the fiberglass, and there's a sheet of ply on top as well. So it's screwed to the actual ply and should be structurally safe. We're not finding timbers underneath. I know there is a timber like a roof rafter running straight across there. So that's the ply is screwed to that, and we're going to screw through to the ply with about a 20 mil long screw, and that'll pull down just nice. And we've got 10 gauge by 18 stainless steel screws, 4 each end, and that'll give us the confidence that that is well and truly fixed to the roof. So it's pulled down. We've still got at least 2 or 3 mil of that KICKASS material underneath there. Just put the screws in the other end and then we're safe. We can have a breather, and then we'll get some KICKASS Pro, another Sika product, right around the edge of that and over the screws to seal everything up, and it's 100% waterproof. So 252 is an adhesive and a sealant, but it doesn't handle UV and the outside conditions and the weather real good, and will start to break down a bit over time. So I use my old favourite KICKASS Pro. Good, universal, paintable, UV resistant, sticks to anything and seals up. Same as what I've done on the other panels on the other side, and after 2 years 100% waterproof. So we'll just get a good bead of that all the way around there. That's just an extra layer of protection, and we'll get some good KICKASS Pro over these screws to make sure everything's 100% waterproof. So with that all installed, I do recommend leaving it to cure for a couple of days. You don't want to have that on and go ripping down a bouncy road and all that's moving. You want all that adhesive to set and cure so that it's stuck to your roof. I recommend 3 or 4 days to a week as a bare minimum. So if you're parked up somewhere for a couple of days, perfect opportunity, but you don't want to stick it on a Friday afternoon and then head off on your camping trip or getting away for your weekend. You've got to make sure that it is cured. Alrighty, the next step in the solar panel installation is getting all that power from the sun into the caravan. So we've got some pre-wired with those waterproof PV connectors, MC4 I think they're called, pre-wired from Springer's Solar. So all I need to do is cut them to length and I can connect that inside the van, connect it onto the back of the solar panel. Might run it through a bit of corrugated conduit, but the mission I've had to do when I did the last install, I put this waterproof box here with the glands on it inside there that tighten up, which was a perfect, nice, neat installation, fully waterproof. But trying to get the cable from inside the van here into this box now is a bit of a mission. Just meant I had to drill out the rivets, lift the end of that existing panel so I've got enough room to get my hand in there. Possibly have to drill another couple of holes in the side of this box. Because I can't get another cable in through the gland itself, just bring them out the side of the box, run it up through the ceiling of the van. Sounds easy, but it's going to be a little bit of a mission. I'll get back to you once we've got the cables run through. Zip tie those up like that, run that around nice and neat, because anything laying on the roof might restrict the flow of water when it's raining and cause a leak somewhere, so you want it to be free draining. Run it around the side, under the panel, get it through into the van, then we can refix that solar panel. Well, it was a bit of a mission, but we got the wires through that box, all sealed up. Everything's nice and neat and tidy. Solar panel secure again with some new rivets in there. Just run it around the side of the aircon and over to the other new solar panel. So all that leaves us to do is just make 2 connections down inside. We'll get that done, show you how I've done that and the setup that we've got. So we've got our cables run down in there. I will just double check that the positive is positive and the negative is negative. I'm going to connect that to that side of the fuse on the positive, and I've got a common earth there. Connect the earth wire to that, and then that all feeds through that heavy 10mm all the way through into the batteries down under the floor. So we'll just terminate this, get a couple of connections on there, and job done. Well, there it is, complete. 40 amp MIDI fuse on the positive up the top, just a common earth down the bottom. So I'll just put that cover plate back on there. Now that's all. We'll be feeding power into that MPPT controller, and then through all the shunt and everything to manage and monitor how much power we have into those 480 amp hours of batteries, which it's shown fully charged. So it will be interesting to see once we do get out there on our next trip, which won't be far away, just to see how much it actually puts in compared to about the 25 to 30 amps that it used to put in just with the panels on the roof. Once we plug in the extra foldable panels and the blanket, it boosts it right up. Having 1100, 1200 watts of solar going in is definitely going to be a major help on those rainy and cloudy days and weeks. We don't really need it, during those times when the weather's good, but it's when the weather's bad or winter time, you might only get 5 hours of solar during a day. So every little bit and every amp that you can put back into those batteries, you're winning. There you go. That ended up being probably a half-day job to do all that. It's done now, 100% complete. 170 watt KICKASS solar panel on the roof with the bypass diode. I believe that helps in shaded areas. So normally a normal solar panel would just block out your whole panel. If you got a bit of shade over one section, it'll block the whole panel out and you'll get next to zero solar going into your battery. Panels with a diode, like that KICKASS panel, they'll still work in shaded areas. So it bypasses, if one corner or one cell in your panel is shaded, the rest of it's still going to be producing power. So those solar panels with the bypass diode in them is definitely the way to go. Now the iTech World stuff, we are in no way affiliated or sponsored by them. We purchased all that ourselves, just going on recommendations from other people that we know have been using the system for quite a few years and absolutely love the iTech gear. But when it comes to solar panels, or if you're on a budget, KICKASS, have a look at those and see the link in the description of this video. We are affiliated with KICKASS now. Thanks to them, they supply lots of great gear, not just solar panels, but if you wanted to get a solar panel for yourself or blankets or any other 12-volt gear, they've got it all online. And if you use that link out of the description, that just helps to support us a little bit. We make the tiniest little bit of commission out of the sales that when people use that link. So thanks for your support in advance, guys. If you are looking for some quality gear from KICKASS, jump on that link. Happy to help you out, and thank you for helping us out. We do run a bit of their gear, which the ute's a bit of a mess at the moment after a busy week at work. The 75 litre fridge, I'll be doing a review on that in the very near future. Extremely happy with that fridge and great value for money after a couple of years of being used day in, day out, 365 days a year. Absolutely brilliant fridge. That's it for this video, and showing you how to install a solar panel on the roof of your caravan. I hope it's helped you in some way or another. I hope you've enjoyed the video and got a bit of useful information out of it. It's been a bit of a mission, a bit of a project, getting up and down that ladder. Time now to go and open the diary up, tick that job off the list. That's one less that we have to do before we hit the road in the end of September, October this year. Living in our caravan full time. If you haven't seen that video yet, check that out, and that's us in a couple of months time. About 100 days we'll be living in this solar powered off-grid. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. We'll see you all again very soon on the next Brandyscape adventure.
If you'd like to see more of Brandyscape adventures, check out these videos and playlists on the screen now. One last time, say a massive thank you to all our subscribers, our followers, people that like and comment on our videos. Thank you very much for your support, and we look forward to bringing you lots more in the future.